Welcome back to New Day. The Times begins the morning and says that don't bribe auditors. AG warns MDAs of punitive action when caught. A photograph of the Auditor General, Mr. Daniel Demelevo here. $1.5 million allocated to audit service to go paperless, and we're on the path to resilient, robust economy. President tells American governors, and that's on the time. The statesman says government aids audit service with $1.5 million to fight systemic corruption. And today, newspaper says that declare your assets. AG charges public officers who earn over 3,700 Ghana cedis. Those are some of the papers I have this morning. My guest to do the talking, to my extreme left, the Member of Parliament for the Mion constituency, a member of the NDC, Honorable Mohammed Abdul Razak is here. Good morning. Abdulaziz, sorry.
It's okay,
good
Bright.
morning. I hope you're good.
I'm good, Bright.
Thanks for joining us. I also have here Member of Parliament for the Okaikwe Central Constituency, Honorable Patrick Ebuama. Good morning, too.
Good morning.
Hope you're doing great.
By His grace, I'm well.
Thank you. I am good, too.
Amen.
I am good, too. I am even before we start our conversation, the N1 highway is in your constituency. And I'm sure you watched the dangerous highway aired by TV3. When you spoke at that time, you said that efforts were being made to deal with the situation. Has anything changed?
Thank you very much. On that issue, I think the Minister for Roads and I have been engaging on it. It runs through about 6 constituencies, but I have been at the forefront of advocating for serious measures to be put on that highway from Ayawaso West, Okaikwe North, then you come to my place, Okaikwe Central. Past Central proper, Anyaso to, then you go to Wejagbawe, then some parts of Ablekuma North, that's Kwashiman area. I've seen a proposal that about 50 bridges are supposed to be constructed on many interchanges or highways in this country, and that stretch, that 14.1 kilometer stretch, is part of it. I must commend Honorable Amokwata for that initiative. I believe that it all calls for serious collaboration between all the stakeholders to raise the needed funding to be able to reduce the carnage on that highway. I'm sure I granted an interview with your news team.
Right.
Yes, and I must commend her for a very good job done. We spoke at length, and I gave her some statistics and some worrying scenarios on that stretch, and I believe a lot more has to be done. We are also engaging the people who work around the highway to also adhere to good motor traffic rules and regulations, as well as the police ensuring that people follow the right routes on the highway. Then the individual pedestrians, they should understand that walking is an exercise. They will tell me, oh, Honorable, the footbridge is too far apart. I ask them, your life and you waking up early and setting up early as against you scaling over that small bridge, you have to think twice. So, Brian, this is what we
hope to see something get done on it.
It's something that is dear to my heart.
Grateful. Member of Parliament for the Okaikwe Central Constituency. Let's get to
Bright. Even before you
want to make a comment
before you proceed.
Okay.
When you make time for our colleagues in the urban centers about bridges,
we should also make time for you.
You should be making time for the feeder roads
I know.
Where people will still have to struggle with very bad roads. We are looking at the trauma and the trouble that pregnant women would go through to be transported to health centers, farm produce. Very, very important. You've done a very good job for my friend, Dr. Oko.
Right.
And we are doing same for my brother and friend here. Extend that
I'll do some.
Extend that same facility to the rural MPs.
Abdulaziz, you know mission is in the 3 northern regions. Okay. Certainly Mion will be a bus stop, I guess. We'll be there.
Mion is a beautiful place. You don't need to go there.
Okay.
With our poor feeder roads.
Okay. Grateful. All right. The Heritage this morning says that JJ Nketia punched NDC MP over Abu Gapele's solidarity comment. Now, the opposition NDC has disassociated itself from the comment made by a member of parliament for the Odio constituency about a conviction of former national coordinator of JIDA, Mr. Abuga Pele. The MP, in an interview on Accra-based City FM, said the party would release Mr. Pele from prison if it recaptures power in the 2020 general elections. Now, he goes on to say between 2001 and 2004, Mr. Chachu Chikata, Danagbadakpi, Ibrahim Adam, Kwame Pepe and Co. were sentenced, but it did not stop the party from winning elections. However, the party in a release signed by General Secretary, Mr. Siedun Ketia, said the sentiments expressed by the MP on the above subject do not reflect the position of the party. The party added that they initiated investigations into the corrupt case and urged that Nanado-led administration to follow suit. It will therefore be observed that after successful conviction has been achieved in this particular case, the initiator will turn around to free any person who has been convicted as a result. Mr. Rawlings has also spoken, and he is suggesting that that's a very bad comment, and these are some of the comments, according to Mr. Rawlings, that will keep the party in the position for a long time. That's the heritage. Honorable Abdulaziz, let me begin with you. This from the party should be welcoming and serve as a deterrent to others who may make certain comments without perhaps consulting the party on the position on certain issues.
Good morning to you, good morning to my colleague here, and good morning to our cherished viewers, especially my constituents back at Myong. It's true that it serves as a check, not only for members of parliament, but for all those who communicate for the party, to make sure that whatever they say publicly is in sync with the party's position. The General Secretary of our party has stated clearly what the position of the party is. The sentiments that were expressed by my senior colleague, Honorable Ni-Lante, was a personal one. He's someone I admire, I must admit. I serve on the same committee with him. He's the ranking of the committee that I serve on, the Committee on Local Government and Rural Development. He's a very fine member of parliament, but I must admit that he got it wrong this time round, and the General Secretary of our party has stated clearly what the position of the party is. I listened to some other commentators who wanted to interpret that to mean the position of our party. The General Secretary has stated clearly that not even in the remotest sense do we associate with that comment. You see, Ni-Lante van der Poel is not just a member of the NDC. He is also a member of parliament. And so if you want to say that simply because he's a member of the NDC, his comments represent the position of the NDC, would it be justifiable to, for instance, also conclude that it is a position of parliament? Absolutely no. And so our position is very clear. In fact, no political party or government can free a convicted person. It doesn't lie within the bosom of a political party or the executive, if they were to be in power, to free a convicted person. It lies within the rights of Mr. Abuga Pele if he wants to seek a review at the appeals court, whether under President Akufo-Addo or under the government of the NDC from 2021. I mean, it's something that he can exercise, and I'm sure the case would be determined on its merit. I'm also aware that the founding father of our party, President Rawlings, has also shared some perspectives on that matter on his Facebook wall. Well, you cannot disagree with him when he expresses his personal views on some of these matters, except to say that his sentiments and perspective that he shared was rather very harsh on the party that he founded. I mean, those were the positions of Ni-Lante van der Poel and not the party. And so to have extended that one to mean the position of the party and insinuating that we could be in opposition for a very long time. I think that it was needless, and the founding father of our party could have avoided that. Some of these things tends to deepen the internal crack that we are still dealing with. You know, the posturing of our founding father, and sometimes the way and manner we react to some of them does not help the cause of our party's cohesion. I would want to urge my colleagues in Parliament, our communicators, to take it very easy. I mean, our General Secretary has spoken. We don't share in the sentiments and comments of Lante van der Poel. And as a government or a party that believes in the rule of law, the party that was born out of the core principles of accountability and probity will be the last to be seen freeing someone without any basis who was found guilty of causing financial loss to the state. It must be put on record that Mr. Abugapele was not jailed for corruption.
Right.
That must be put in perspective. That must be stated clearly. He was convicted for willfully causing financial loss to the state.
An abetment of...
exactly.
Right,
the likes of Adam Ibrahim and all those that Neil and Van der Poel referred to were not convicted of corruption. They were convicted of willfully causing financial loss to the state. Maybe sometimes you exercise bad judgment as a public officer, and then the law comes after you. You are unable to defend yourself while you take certain certain decisions. And so let's see how we navigate out of that.
All right. I'm grateful. He's a member of Parliament for the Mien constituency. Honorable Patrick Boama, the comment from the Odududu MP, did it reflect, from the very day you heard it, did it reflect the position of a party? The party now says that that is not what we believe in. Should we take it?
Well, thank you very much. Good morning to you and viewers and my colleague MP. Who am I to deny the NDC the right to come and clear the mess by my good friend Neil and Van der Poel? For me, it was an insulting statement in the eyes of the Ghanaian public. Having pushed for this trial, the NDC itself started it. The judiciary was given a free hand to look into the matter and came out with a verdict, conviction and a sentence. And for a member of parliament to make such comments that, oh, when the NDC, God forbid, wins the 2020 election, they were going to release them, and that other colleagues who were jailed previously under the NPP regime, regardless, NDC won the 2008 election. It was an unfortunate statement. One, I think it was disrespectful to the judicial system. Two, he didn't consult his own party. Three, his party has come out to issue a statement to dissociate itself with the comments made by Neil and Van der Poel. Question is, do they do proper consultation when such issues arise? Former President Rawlings has been cracking the whip somehow to ensure that the term probity and accountability and the moral culture that he believes in has vanished within the NDC, and the NDC has lost some credibility when it comes to the fight against corruption. So lately you see that he's been talking tough on issues, he's been making his case, and to the extent that he said the NDC has lost the moral compass. It's like flying a plane, and if the compass or the radar is lost, then it means you are going down the abyss. So it's good that he's the founder, even though most of them now don't recognize or give him that respect. I believe that he's asserting himself as the founder of the party, trying to bring everybody in line with his views and his fight against corruption. So I believe the party did what is right, and I believe you can't have two choir masters. Once the General Secretary of the opposition party speaks, let's respect their views, but we'll leave the rest to the good people of this country to judge as to whether it was a saving statement from the General Secretary, or, let's put it this way, that they never thought a member of parliament was going to speak that way. So we give them the benefit of the doubt.
You see, Bright, very, very interesting. My friend has just revealed that I actually wanted himself to say that the prosecution of Mr. Abugapele started under President Mahama. That is the political will that we need in fighting corruption.
Nobody has
the political will to be able to prosecute one of your own. This was a chief executive officer appointed by the same President Mahama, who had the political will to conduct some investigations and to put him for trial before the court. That is what we are asking our colleagues to emulate. The shining example of President. Oh, take it easy.
Yes,
Bright. Take it easy.
Did this case not go to court? Because from all indications, it was a bad case.
Oh, you see, Bright, I'm just telling you that this same chief executive who was put before trial by the government of President Mahama, the Attorney General, that was also appointed by President Mahama, put him before trial. This same person was appointed by that same President Mahama. In fact, that's all that we require to be able to fight corruption. We have all the good laws in this country. We have all the institutions that are clothed with the authority to fight corruption. But what we lack as a country is the will to prosecute one of our own. And that is what President Mahama demonstrated. Mr. Abugapele was not the only person who was before a trial. Even the National Service boss, Mr. Imoro, several other people were dismissed. Mr. Imoro and Abugapele were put before court by President Mahama. We are requiring President Akufo-Addo to do same to his ministers and chief executive officers who have been alleged to have been engaged in some form of corruption of the other. That's all that we are requiring them to do.
Okay.
And to now tell us that President Rawlings, being the founder of our party, and we now abandoning him today, he's your newly found bosom friend. The same president, the same former president, whose privileges and protocols that Mr. Akufo-Addo then as a foreign minister unilaterally withdrew. Today he's your bosom friend. You want to defend him against us. You are only feeding into the internal cracks and benefiting politically from that.
Okay, I see. I'm grateful. But is it really making? Is it legitimate to say that the fight against corruption is failing because we are unable to prosecute our own when we are in power?
Not necessarily, because you see, the most difficult job for a prosecutor is to be able to do a proper investigation, come out with clear evidence to be able to convince a court. That is why the principle is that you must prove beyond reasonable doubt. So my colleague just said allegations. Mere allegations doesn't establish any guilt. You understand? You may have all the allegations, you may have certain facts, but to be able to prove it, you end up disgracing yourself in court. Honorable Osei J, Professor Jambafo, Akoto Osei, Asamoah Boateng, they were all sent to court by the NDC. But what happened? They failed because they didn't have any evidence to back their claim. So just sending people to court for mere allegations, you'll be doing the state a disservice. You must ensure that whoever you put before court, you're able to substantiate, because this case, like you rightly said, was very bad, and the state and the public knew about the facts. So it was very easy to prosecute. And it didn't even take a year to do that. It took more than three years to...
Yeah, the fourth year.
Fourth year. So prosecution is very difficult. That's why my friends will say, oh, you say you jail us. But President Kufuor sent his own minister to court.
Which minister?
He's been criticized.
Which minister?
Which minister? Malam,
it's unfair. It's unfair. It's unfair, Minister.
You're not in
Minister,
this
it's
country.
unfair. You prosecuted Malam Issa Sebi because he was not one of your own.
Aziz,
you allow Patrick.
Okay.
Oh, Aziz.
Sorry, Minister.
Aziz, you want to take over from Bright? No problem. As the host,
I was just helping you, Minister.
if you want to take
I was
over.
just helping you.
So,
I was just helping you.
right, this is why corruption has to be
Right.
tackled up
Once
on
again,
all
not the
fronts.
name. Who they
So-
prosecuted? What's the name?
Whether MPP or NDC, you took issues with the finance minister, it went to Shraj,
And adverse finance were made against him.
and he was cleared.
He wasn't cleared.
You've been making allegations. That's why you feel when you take people to court, because you won't do the proper thing, you will not investigate well. And so, allegation, they say corruption. Then they send you to court and they go and fail. You understand? So, I'm telling you, Abdulaziz, prosecuting somebody, the court is always.
But just to correct you,
L-
the minister wasn't clear.
I don't want us to.
Abdulaziz,
I don't want us to
adverse
go.
when you
were
were
made.
talking, I did not interrupt.
But
You
what
see-
we know is that the adverse findings made were not what the persons took to court.
So they should
So,
prosecute him on those adverse findings.
Take
All
you to
right.
court.
So you let's listen.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Interesting, right?
Okay.
Do you listen to that?
All right.
Then I should take him to
Let's
court.
move on. Now let me go to the Finder this morning, page 10. That story is also carried by the Daily Graphic on the front page. It says that government disburses 1.1 billion for 7 flagship programs. That's the way the Finder puts it. It says the Ministry of Finance has since January 2017 released over 1.1 billion. That's about 1,127.5 million cedis to finance key programs initiated by the government. Minister of Finance disclosed this. So, one district, one factory, 91.5 million. Free senior high school, 205 million. Planting for food and jobs, 105 million. 126 million for national ID program. 400 for infrastructure, for poverty eradication. 100 million for school feeding program, and another 100 million for the scholarship secretariat. These are the programs, and this is government attempt at ensuring that all these programs get the needed support. Now, Honorable Patrick Boama, some have suggested that the government has been slow in these flagship programs. For instance, they talk about the one district, one factory, and which they claim it doesn't seem to be seeing the light of the day. 91.5 million. Now, the story says that for the one district, one factory, the EG3 stamp project in the Volta region is one of them. Processing charcoal for export, that's what the project will do. The Amantin Cassava project located in the Bonafo region. The rest are Begro Cassava project in the eastern region, Adaklu Cassava project in the Volta region, and then the Pineapple project in the central region. Government raising financing for these projects. How well is government doing?
Government is doing very well, Bright. You see, government wants to aid the private sector in setting up these factories. Government could be an equity partner in some of these projects, but the private sector wants to see that government is serious about this program. It's a very beautiful program. Everybody supports it, and it's going to help increase the foreign exchange base of this country if we're able to set up these factories, most of which are agro-processing factories, to be able to export some of them, like you mentioned. You need to do a very good analysis of all the proposals that are brought to you. Banks want you to show serious commitment by putting in place some matching funds, like government has done. 91.5 million,
Right.
You're talking about $21 to $22 million. So the banks is okay, we are clear.
That's enough commitment.
That is enough commitment from you that if we receive a proposal from Bright to set up a cassava processing factory to help Guinness or other companies that need the starch to be able to brew some beer or Guinness here, then we'll be able to lend to that investor who is going to set up that factory in Begro or wherever, or the pineapple farm that has to be established in Ekrumfi to feed the factory that is being set up over there. So you need a good business plan, a good business model to get the buy-in from the banks, and government being the leader in this area in terms of government policy to help every district set up a very important factory or a commercially viable business entity ought to show commitment, which government is doing. My colleagues during the debate on the President's State of the Nation address, you said you were going to set up factories. We are not going to rush and fail. No. We are going to ensure that the right steps are taken, the right decisions are made.
So that's why the delays?
Of course. We don't want them to come back like they promising us 200 secondary schools and not being able. We want to be able to put the right steps and measures in place so that once we set up or help Bright to set up this private sector-led entity, that factory or entity will be able to stand the test of time. Because mind you, you will have banks investing in it. You have private people putting their monies into it. Government has money, some equity in some of these institutions or setups. So it's not about government going to put money and say, oh, I'm building a factory. No, we are going to be in partnership with some individuals. Other forms of support could be from technical or other private sector-led support. So 1.1 billion at the end of January was released. We passed the budget in November or December, thereabout. And if you look at the breakdown, 91.5 million for 1D, 1F, 2.5 million for free senior high school. They don't want to hear about that. 126 million for the National Identification Program. You know that our brothers and sisters out there want a very good national ID system. We also need a good national ID system to be able to check a few things in this country, and also to ensure that we protect and raise the needed revenue.
So we can, for instance, forgive government. For instance, in the National ID program, the first phase should have seen the end of October, some registration done. But we could not meet a deadline, and we can simply say that because government is trying to dot their I's and make sure the T's are crossed before they are properly implemented.
Right, it's not entirely the case. The case is that, my colleague will attest to that fact, there were some amendments that ought to have been done in the previous legislation. And I don't know if my colleague was in the House, Dr. Koto say, who moved the motion for that amendment, which was passed. So there's an amendment to the existing national identification law, which Parliament has passed, to incorporate the registration of certain names, date of birth, place of birth, and a few things. And also to ensure that some aspects of two people guaranteeing, and all those things were put in place in the amendment. So the president was issued the first Ghana card. His was not a difficulty, but we needed to streamline it and make sure that the law and the proper legal regime was in place. So from the releases by the Minister of Finance, you see that he's serious about the program. Government is serious about the program, because you can't send the president to launch a program and then allowing it to fail. So 400 million Ghana cedis, that's a lot of money. If you divide by 4.4, that's over $100 and something million has been released for the program as at January. Another 600 million was released in February. Government has also paid over 3 billion Ghana cedis of arrears that the NDC left out of the 3.7 billion that the government projected to. So all in all, government is doing well. Government is serious about its flagship program, free SHS, school feeding, which we started, but they claim they came to expand. We've expanded it better because the Social Democratic Party has never started any social intervention program. We are here to see one anyway.
That's not true. That's
so,
not true. That's not
when
true.
you have your turn, you tell us.
Okay.
Health insurance, school feeding, capitation grant, free bus ride, and what have you. We're all started by a right-wing capitalist party or the MTP. So,
okay.
Right, that's what I have to say on this.
I'm grateful.
I must commend the finance minister and his team for a wonderful job.
Honorable Aziz, so this is what the finance minister is doing, and the honorable member, your colleague, explained that perhaps the delays in these projects were simply to make sure that the right things are done. What do you make of perhaps you getting to know today that government has finally released some monies for these programs?
Right. You see, the challenge with the MPP and President Akufo-Addo is that they are finding it very difficult to live by some facts of life. That when you lie in the morning, you are definitely going to lie in the afternoon to be able to cover up for the lie that you lied in the morning. Today we are being told by the finance minister that they have released an amount of 1.1 billion Ghana cedis for their flagship programs. Yes. 1D1F, 91.5 million Ghana cedis. Let us deal with 1D1F. Prior to the 2016 general elections, we were told, and even after the elections, Ghanaians were told on countless occasions that the government was going to establish a factory in every district. What it means is that that is supposed to be done between 2017 January to December 2020. Logically, one would I mean, going by your own logic.
He's
take
answered
it easy.
everything for
Take it
government.
easy. Take it easy. Going by your own logic, we should have been expecting at least 50 factories every year.
That is your logic,
Take
not
it
my
easy.
logic.
When we said we're doing 200 senior high schools,
that is your
even
logic.
before we ended our term, you were asking us why we're not doing 50 per year.
So which
Going by your
when
own
our
logic,
term
take
ends,
it
then
easy.
you ask us.
Take it easy. That project even lacks clarity. Whether it is state-owned, state-driven, or private sector-driven project, we don't even know. You tell us that government is going to do a factory in every district. Now it is going to be private-led process, and that government would only facilitate. In fact, every successive regime, right from Kwame Nkrumah days, up to down, have facilitated private sector development. There's no two ways about it. It is not any special initiative. We were here when the president went to cut salt for the construction of the factory at Ekunfi somewhere in August 2017. And we're told that by the end of 2017, they would have started work on 51 of such factories. Right. Today is 27th February 2018. Even that salt that they went to cut at Ekunfi is now a forest for it's true. Nothing is going on there.
TV3 has their
TV3,
cameras. You can go there.
There's nothing
Ekunfi
going
is
on
just
there.
an hour and a half from Accra, so you just can go and speak to the promoters of that. So we can't sit here and just spew what we don't know.
Right.
Just 1.5 hours from here.
Honorable Bama, you lie.
You see,
you please go on. He says
the
that there's
president
nothing
and his ministers
on the ground. You go.
The president and his ministers, except the minister for trade, who is supposed to be in charge of that project, you all went there in state vehicles. You wasted our resources, went to cut salt for a project that you were not prepared for. You promised us 51 by the end of the year. The year is ended. We're in February. February will be ending tomorrow. Not even a single factory have you been able to establish. Even that one you went to cut salt for has now been turned into a forest. And you still have the guts to tell us that you have released 91.5 million Ghana cedis for 1D, 1F. It's not just the money.
It doesn't take time
but the policy clarity. Let us know what we are doing in for instance, in Tamale, in Myong and Yendi. Nobody even knows what we are talking about.
File a question.
I have filed a question on 1G, 1F.
Yes,
but I can assure you, I have filed take it easy. I have personally filed a question to the trade minister to come and speak to these issues.
In your district?
But not in my district, in the entire country.
Okay.
But, Boam, I can tell you that I am very, very suspicious that that question will be declined.
Oh, how?
Oh, yes.
You're imputing wrong motives on the speaker.
I'm not imputing a wrong motive. Yeah. Myself and you are in the house. We know how the house is run. We know how the house is run. I am on the floor.
You mean some questions can be declined?
Right, the speaker.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Oh, I see.
And they are required to give by saying, like I'm telling him, we are all in the house and we know what's going on.
The speaker is not here.
You see,
you cannot
take it easy.
Okay, you go.
Oh, Bright, I'm on the floor.
Yeah, please go on.
You see, the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, is it Lindsay?
Robert, yeah.
Somewhere in October last year, said government was ready to rule out about 173 of such factories. Where are we today? You must learn to be humble to admit that some of the pledges that you made in the run-up to the 2016 general elections was just to hoodwink the Ghanaian public into voting for you, which you have succeeded. You can lie to win power, but you cannot lie to govern. That is the fact. You are talking of releasing 205 million Ghana cedis for free senior high school, and you want us to celebrate you when you made a provision of 400 million Ghana cedis for the same free senior high school in the 2017 budget, and you ended up spending less than 100 million Ghana cedis. The question that the Minister for Finance and Education, and for that matter, President Akufo-Addo, should be asking himself is that how did the schools fend for them? Because if in your own estimate, 400 million Ghana cedis would have sufficed for a term, and yet you release less than 100 million Ghana cedis. And nobody asked the question again. The schools ended up with that less than 100 million Ghana cedis.
But these disbursements not done continuously?
No, Bright. After the release that they did, not even a penny was released again.
After the first one?
I'm telling you.
That's what you know.
Exactly. We're in the second term. Very soon they will be ending the second term. Another budget was made, some 1.2 billion Ghana cedis was made for the entire year for 2018. Reasonably, the first term should be 400 million Ghana cedis again. You have gone to release 205 million Ghana cedis, and we think we should celebrate you. And these are even allocations, so those monies have not been paid to the schools. Those are just mere allocations. I've allocated 205. These monies haven't hit the accounts of those schools.
How can you support
the
infrastructure poverty
eradication?
Right.
Yes.
You release 400 million Ghana cedis.
Yes.
You see,
yes.
There are certain in Dagbon. They say there are certain things that when you have shame, when you know shame, you don't do or say. IPEP, you promised every constituency an amount of an equivalent of $1 million at the current exchange rate of 4.6. You are looking at
exchange rate is not 4.
Well,
please.
I'll give you 4. I'll give you 4.
Please.
Let's assume it's 4.
Let's be honest to Ghanaians.
So you're happy with the 4. You're happy with the 4. At the exchange rate of 4.6, you are talking about some 4.6 million Ghana cedis that you promised to do for every year for your 4 years. 2017, not even a cedi did you release for IPEP. In fact, the minister in charge of special initiatives, Howard Kumsen, is on record to have stated somewhere in August last year that the money was ready for disbursement. You did not release 1 penny. You guys don't have the money.
Aziz, have you sent?
You guys don't have the money.
Right.
You guys don't have the money.
Whether he sent
his project for me.
Whether he sent his project
for the whole of 2017. You are aware. You have a constituency.
Yes.
You have a district. How much was released?
They've been
How much? No, I'm not asking who has been there. How much was released for IPEP? Not even
the thinking is that the money was going to be paid like the common fund for them to misuse. No,
we should hail you. We should gloat.
Of course, it's a very beautiful program, and it will succeed.
You can lie to win power. You cannot lie to govern. None of your flagship programs have you been able to implement well. Planting for food and jobs, 105 billion. The minister comes to tell us that the planting for food and jobs project has recruited 745,000 people. The Ministry of Agriculture has no responsibility and mandate to deal with data. The entire public service of this country is a little over 600 million. 600,000.
Right.
You tell us that within a year for a project, you have recruited 745,000. Can you feel it?
Can you feel it? Aziz never pays attention to this detail. He doesn't read.
Can you feel it?
Aziz,
it's 745 jobs
that you
have
pay
been created in the
attention
agri
to
sector.
detail. Because whatever you
Can you
said,
feel it?
It means that you came and you never even took time to read the story, even in the newspaper.
That's not fair. That is not fair.
Honorable Brahma, is he legitimate in asking that these monies have not been disbursed? He's suggesting, for instance, that some of the figures don't seem to tally. So, for instance, he mentions the IPEP.
You never misses
and says
one
that
penny for last year.
Nothing has gone.
This is mischief at the highest level. Aziz, if you allow me,
you don't want to be heckled. I've put the question.
This is mischief at the highest level.
Right. He doesn't want to be heckled.
If you read the first paragraph of the newspaper, said the government has at the end of January, so the member of parliament could easily file a question. Oh, listen, to ascertain.
I can assure you, Bright,
whether the Minister of Finance is being honest to the good people of this country, or to follow up at the controller.
I've the question for
Aziz, we are not at the market.
Okay, Aziz,
were we at
you allow him.
Were we at Balata or Makala 104?
And then I get you the chance
the
to also
NDC,
react.
when you are speaking the truth, will always want to run for cover.
Okay, Honorable Brahma, please go.
This is a failing party that was rejected by the good people of this country, and they are afraid to be confronted with the facts. Right. So any serious member of the NDC could file a question to challenge what the minister has said. That one, as of January, what he's saying he has released, he's done. You can ask the Minister of Trade, you can ask maybe Hawa Kumsin's ministry a question, you can ask any of the agencies that this story is attributed to. That is responsible legislation. You can file a question, but you are the same person saying that, I'm afraid the speaker will not admit my question. That is unfortunate. The speaker, suspect. You shouldn't even hazard that suspicion, because this speaker has admitted over 90 questions or more from members of the NDC.
You don't let us go.
And it is very unfair for you to come and sit here and say that the speaker, you suspect the speaker will not admit the question.
One key thing he raised, and which we are trying to rebut, is that this $1 million per constituency has not come. And you were suggesting that it is because the monies will be disbursed based on perhaps proposals coming in. Is that what you were saying?
Let me explain to you. The IPEP, that is the Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication Program that the government has decided to undertake. It's one of its flagship programs. And I tell you, government will not fail on that. Any of government's flagship programs, we are not going to fail. The One Village, One Dam is under that program. It's under that program, he doesn't know. 2, urban water supply within some parts of the country. For example, last week, the consultants came to my constituency to identify where they were going to set up those programs. You just don't say that, oh, the money is ready, so I've released it. It's not going to be released like how the common fund is released to
proposals need to come.
You need to identify certain strategic programs and projects. Yes, I don't know if you feel the forms that were sent to the. We are talking to serious people in the country who are listening to serious discussions.
Please go.
It's true, and that's why you must
government will not just release money and just let it go to waste like we experienced under the NDC. 11-point-something billion for the road sector. After auditing, you end up having only 5.4 billion being certified. We are not going to do that. We want to use the hard-earned taxpayers' money to do the right thing. Yes, it's a government policy to support every constituency with $1 million, but we are not going to rush and just dissipate public funds. No, it's not going to happen.
Who has to bring the proposals? The authorities, the various...
Every constituency was asked to identify their needs. I, for one, I know Abeka, La Paz, Nyamiche area roads are very bad, so it's dear to my heart. So I sent it. I needed some drainage systems around Apenkwa, Mancheman area. I put it on the program. So, thirdly, we needed some stamp pipes in certain areas. So the consultant, Emmanuel Asante and his team, together with my Nasara coordinator last week, went around those identified areas to ascertain what the proposals that I've put before them. If he hasn't done that for me, then that is his own problem. Because they think we are going to joke with this problem. We are not. We are a very serious government. We made a promise to the good people of Ghana. We know Ghanaians will ask us, you said we were going to do A, B, C, D. Were you able to do that within your 4-year term? And we have to be answerable.
So the money would only come after proposals have been made. And this is being done with the various development authorities.
I want you to ask
yes.
Abdulaziz whether he sent his
request
to the...
He would ask me.
So let me go to him. He's explained why the money hasn't come.
And why it has been released, some have been released now.
You should be satisfied now, Honorable Aziz.
Right. My friend and brother is struggling.
I'm not. God forbid.
Look, common fund. A fund that is a creation of law, provided for in the Constitution. We are even struggling to deal with common fund. You are a member of parliament. Third quarter common fund. Have you received it?
I'm asking
you. Are entitled
2017.
When you were leaving office,
2017.
When you were leaving office,
you
had you paid?
I thought you just said on this platform that
four had not been paid.
It's not true. It's not true.
When did you come to parliament?
It's not true.
When did you come to
it's
parliament?
not about when I came to parliament. It's about the facts.
Honorable Buama, has third quarter 2017 been paid?
No.
It has not been paid?
It hasn't.
Okay.
If you are struggling,
I'm not.
If
I'm being honest with you.
take it easy, Buama.
Allow him.
The finance minister that we are told is proven to be a national asset is struggling to pay even the common fund to assemblies and members of parliament to deal with basic challenges at the constituency and district levels. If government is struggling, I'm not sure you haven't paid because we are wicked, because you don't have the money. You are promising to do 1 million per constituency that you failed to do for 2017. And when we are being told,
he says you have not put in your proposal, that's why the money.
They have not called for any proposal from anybody.
They have.
They haven't done that. It's not true.
Made public.
It is not true.
Is it been made public, or it is known to you alone?
It's not true.
No, Honorable Buama,
it is not true.
Is it a public?
It is not true.
A document you have, or it is made public.
Right.
Go to an office at the castle.
Where?
Find out.
You see,
even in listen, even in the newspapers,
is that the IPEP?
There was an advert.
Okay.
For some projects under the IPEP. So if you are not a diligent member of parliament,
okay, you won't know. Honorable Aziz, how come it's been made public, but you don't know?
It is not true. I challenge Buama on this your platform that they have not engaged members of parliament on anything in respect of IPEP. In fact, if they have done that, then they are dealing with the members of the majority side, who they are very fond of doing. Right. Come on, fam.
Let me go to George and come.
Look,
I said George. Give me a few minutes.
Okay.
Let me go to Johnny. Johnny, good morning once again. Let's take some comments.
Of course, some message to the WhatsApp says, Mustafa and T-Poly says, Tamale says Napo is right because free SHS policy is not going down well with NDC because they couldn't do it and MPP has done it. Those corrupt officials should prepare for us. We're coming after them like Akai. TV3 NewDay, good morning. Before Ghana can solve the issue of corruption in public offices, we need to totally eradicate corruption in the security service in the nation. I believe all Ghanaian citizens should march and campaign against corruption. Osman Burkisan in Tamale. Good morning, TV3. I'm watching you live. What is wrong if policeman sleeps with a fully grown woman? The police didn't rape nor defile. They didn't sleep with someone's wives. Should the policeman sleep with a man? Should the policeman go and sleep with animals or trees? Okay, what is wrong with Ghanaians? Emmanuel and Adonikrom, well, there's a moral bit that is being tossed in there, the UN's own regulations, which they are sought to have flouted. If it's not true that NDC free Chikata, it is not true that NDC free Chikata. President Kufuor granted him presidential pardon. Chikata later rejected it and went back to court to clear his name. Michael Amini in the UK says NDC distances themselves from the distasteful statements made by Neil Ante van der Poel that future NDC government will free Abuga Pele is just hypocrisy and laughable because we all witnessed former NDC ministers paid with the taxpayers' money signed a petition in releasing Mugabe and co. from prisons who were jailed by competent court for their barbaric comments. NDC releasing Abuga Pele from prison is not any big deal for them because we know the NDC as a party that has no respect for the rule of law. As this NDC should spare our ears with their hypocrisy and political rhetorics. You promised to create jobs when you voted into power. Now you are maltreating year beneficiaries working for over 5 months without allowance. Nantoma in Tamale. MP for Mion, you should never expect anything positive from St. Rollins when he feels comfortable with the ruling government than his own party. Raymond in Achimota. Good morning. There's a saying that salt doesn't give praise to itself. Well, you say the salt doesn't praise itself. In Chilean Kamfuno, that's what you mean. MPP are always praising themselves. 2020, we go show na Nabaki and Siakwa saying that. Yakubo in Walewale says, good morning, Bright. I'm for my member of parliament from Young. NDC will distance itself from the comments made by Neil Ante van der Poel because it is wrong, a wrong thing made by Abuga Pele to serve the country the way he served our nation. But I'll also suggest to MPP government to pay their teachers their salary arrears without turning it to propaganda and lies like our vice president's office is gradually becoming the office of propaganda. President Rawlings' political power is to free thieves. Please tell us, between 1981 and 2000, a single political figure prosecuted during that era, or after that, 2001, that political corruption began in Ghana? Okay. Good morning, TV3. Tell the MPP to stop employing the agricultural college graduates under the year. They were all well trained for proper job, not year. If the MPP doesn't stop this, I don't think any agricultural student, agriculture will do well in Ghana, though they are investing in the agri sector. Michael in Bongo says, give them better jobs. TV3 NewDay, good morning. Before Ghana can solve the issue of corruption in public offices, we need to be totally eradicate corruption in the security service in the nation. I believe all Ghanaian citizens should march and campaign against corruption. Osman Burkisan in Tamale. And Masaudu in Kumasi Bantama says, NDC is now distancing itself from the statement made by Neil Ante van der Poel concerning Abuga Pele and Asipit. Is it that the public outcry is too huge because they have planned to free them when they come to power? But Neil Ante's okra mouth couldn't keep quiet. The NDC should stop dreaming of coming back to power because they will remain in opposition for a very, very long time. It's obvious that our judiciary cannot escape the manipulation of unseen hands. One can read subsequent judgments and draw conclusions, be that as it may. We should not encourage that because our judiciary is supposed to be independent and free from manipulation. To free the jailed convicts can only be done based on law. Alaji Willie P. in Efiekoma. And we're asking what is happening to the digital addressing system. The MPP communicators seem not to be talking about it. I am from Amanting Brights. Let your people come and verify the so-called cassava processing factory. Abdul Fatahi. Right. Say there's Gary factory waiting for you. You want to check it out?
That's Amanting. Okay. All right. Let's wrap up our conversation. Honorable Aziz, you were wrapping up when we had to take the comments.
Not just on the issue of common fund. Just last week, HISPAC, the Health Insurance Service Providers Association of Ghana, HISPAC, has threatened to return to the cash and carry system if arrests owed its members by the National Health Insurance Authority are not paid. According to HISPAC, most of its members are owed about 20 months of claims, a situation that threatens their operations. This was speaking to CTFM, the public relation officer of the association, Joseph Christian Amu. This is not a student speaking. So the center cannot hold owing about 20 months in respect of health insurance, something that you claim had collapsed under President Mahama. This is some common fine you are struggling to pay. And you come and tell us that you have released 1.1 billion to 1G1 Free Senior High School and we should clap us for you. Interesting.
Okay.
You may have lied to win power, but you cannot lie to govern.
I'm grateful. Honorable Buama, wrap up just a minute.
That has been your cliche this morning, so we don't begrudge you. Health insurance. We inherited a debt of 1.2 billion Ghana cedis, and we've paid over 900 million cedis.
How much you owe today?
It's on record.
How much you owe today?
If you were diligent, you wouldn't have left us with 1.2 billion.
Today?
So,
how much you owe
right,
today?
this government is a serious government. We are doing what is right within the public purse and the public within the law, and we believe that President Akufo-Addo is on track. Will deliver our manifesto promises and will be returned in 2020. Thank you.
Grateful. Patrick Buama is the Member of Parliament for the Okaikwe Central Constituency, a member of the NPP. Honorable Mohammed Abdulaziz is a Member of Parliament for the Mion Constituency, a member of the NDC. Gentlemen, grateful for your Tuesday morning with us.
Thank you.
And those of you who sent your comments, we're also grateful. We'll read the rest when we return after this break. But sports is up next. Stay with us.